If there's one thing that I hate most in the world, it's people who talk about sports but don't really know what the heck they're talking about. And when it comes to Myles Garrett, 90% of the people that talk about him in the city have no clue what they're talking about. We'll come back and discuss why Myles Garrett is actually underrated when it comes to the fans and media in Cleveland. We'll do it coming up next on this episode of The Barbershop. But before we get to our video of the day talking about Myles Garrett, I wanted to talk to you about our sponsor of this video, Patreon. Thank you for visiting the Barbershop YouTube channel. Before we get to today's video, I want to thank our sponsor, Patreon. Patreon is a great way for fans to increase engagement with creators, get behind-the-scenes access, and help push the content their community is passionate about. If you're enjoying the quality content on the Barbershop YouTube channel, we encourage you to further support our cause by becoming a member on Patreon. Barbershop members on Patreon will enjoy a wide variety of exclusive members-only content. As a Barbershop member, you will have access to exclusive videos that you won't find on YouTube. You'll get live question and answer sessions, personalized birthday messages, discount barbershop merchandise, and special shout outs. We'd like to say thank you to all of our new and existing Patreon members for their continued support. We would not be here without you. Join today by clicking the Patreon link in the description. So the situation with Myles Garrett to me is one of the craziest things in the world. As I've been in Cleveland, one of the things that I look at is what is our interaction with the fans and what is the interaction with the media? And for me, there's a lot of times where I look at the situation with Myles Garrett. It just seems like there's individuals who take time out of their day to nitpick about certain things when it comes to Myles Garrett, even though he's by far the best player to ever put on a Cleveland Browns jersey defensively. It's not arguable. And one of the things that I always say is, it's okay to understand. It's okay to recognize greatness while greatness is happening. I think sometimes in our city we get people that do extra, and we're used to the Cleveland area and Northeast Ohio not seeing winners, not seeing teams that are teams that win a lot of games. And I even saw it with LeBron James, right? LeBron James would get criticized for a lot of different things. He got criticized his first stint. He got criticized for his last stint, but one of the things that would always get me was they would find these reasons to put him up against some pedestal, like, well, Jordan was winning this way and Magic was winning this way, when in reality, when it's all said and done with it, one thing you cannot argue with is LeBron will have every statistical category known to man. You can't say he didn't work hard. He works with his body more than anybody. He'll outlast and play everybody. So we've got an opportunity to see, and at least in my era, I got to see Jordan play when I was younger. I got to see LeBron play when he was young and through his prime and through the end of his career. I've seen both. And if you look at it, the longevity, whatever he's done, his athleticism, his records, those won't be eclipsed, right? Those will be very hard to eclipse, especially him being an overall all-around player. But when it comes to Myles Garrett, I see this all the time. And you'll take a look at some of the people that I'm going to bring up. Case in point. We talk Myles Garrett, all of a sudden, people are saying, well, Myles Garrett, he just doesn't show up when the game seems to be in line. He just doesn't seem to be a guy that's around. I'm looking for him, and I can't even tell if he's on the field or not.
I heard last week they torched us running the ball because Myles and Clowney were out. Where both those guys were back, and they torched us even worse.
Yes, they did.
And
how many times have you heard this after a game?
I know Myles is coming off. He was in the car accident, so we're happy he's okay. His effort sucks.
Right? We talk about how bad the defense is. We talk about how the run game and the Browns are terrible in the run game. And we automatically already start to get to where our defensive tackles are horrible. Yeah. And this is what we call a psychological thing about, spreading the blame out on people.
Yeah. So 1 sack and 5 tackles in the last 3 games he's played. How is that? That is not being elite. That is not being a defensive player of the year. That's not even being the best defensive player on our team.
Nope. Yeah.
We are, as humans, we have this thing called spread the blame out. Let's spread the blame out. It was both sides of everything.
When the talk turns to the election, I hear some version of, they're both bad, or they deserve each other, or there's an election? Republicans have one path to victory in this election, and it's called false equivalency. They can't deny Trump is horrible. It's on tape. So they want voters to believe Hillary is just as bad. And in pursuit of that goal, they have a very powerful ally: lazy people.
No, sometimes you're just an idiot. I don't have to be wrong, too, just because you're an idiot.
People who like to say they're all bad. Because when you say that, you don't have to do any homework. Say they're all the same, and then you can sound justifiably jaded by the entire process when really you just don't know anything.
And I don't have to be wrong, and I don't have to be terrible because you're terrible often.
You say you're cynical about politics? Don't flatter yourself. Cynical comes when you know too much. You, on the other hand, haven't bothered to learn anything.
So with the Cleveland Browns, they do a lot of this. We can't stop the run. So now let's talk about why we can't stop the run. You go to the defensive coordinator. Joe Woods wasn't doing his job, G. Bush. Joe Woods wasn't this. He didn't call a good game. Okay, cool. We know that he got fired. The defensive tackles, they're horrible. You said it before the season. Why are we not having defensive tackles? We need guys to get penetration. They brought Taven Bryan and Jordan Elliott in there. Tommy Togiai, a rookie, and Perion Winfrey. I knew that. I told you that before. But since we called those guys out so much and we know they're bad, we have a tendency as humans that we need to go to the next step and say, well, no one is going to get away scot-free here.
A fallacy is an error in reasoning, and false equivalence is a logical fallacy in which two things, whether positions, arguments, behaviors, and the like, are presented as being equivalent or equally credible, when in fact they're not.
No one's without blame. So we know Myles Garrett gets double or triple teamed a lot. We understand that Myles Garrett does, he gets double, triple. We understand that he has great grades when it comes to PFF and any analysis. We know what his pressures are, and we actually see him making plays. But since we can't identify, and since we're not really paying attention,
these numbers are. I don't know how valuable any of those.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Let's go ahead and blame Myles Garrett too. Let's just say Myles Garrett is, he's part of the problem too, G. Bush, because he disappears a whole lot.
Remember, just because somebody claims two things are equivalent doesn't make them so. For example, macing someone as an offensive attack is bad. Intentionally driving into someone as an offensive attack is also bad. But macing someone is not just as bad as driving into somebody.
It's about understanding what his responsibilities are, understanding as a defensive lineman what defensive linemen do, and actually taking time out to break down what you do know what defensive linemen do. Once you do understand what their protocol and what their assignments are you then watching that? I'm going to tell you guys a little secret out here. When I'm in the industry, this is a dirty little secret. These guys don't watch film. Your favorite host ain't watching no film. They're not subscribed to all 22. As a matter of fact, I would tell you this. In order, and this will be part of, I'm going to do a video later on, dirty little secrets in the industry, right? And one of the things I'll give you a little nugget now is that if you want to be a host in this industry, if you want to be a guy that actually progresses and moves further, there's a lot of people that just don't have enough time to watch all of the game that they need to watch. If you really want to be a competent host, you would have to be watching countless games, breaking down film. You would have to be watching baseball games out the wazoo. There's 100, some of the 86 of those. You'd be watching every single football game. You'd be watching every draft. You'd be in your books. Some sports take a lot of time to digest and understand what's going on besides the main pictures, besides the main topics. And for the NFL, it's no different. When you talk about guys and if they're watching the defensive players and the offensive players up front play, they're not. Generally speaking, what happens, the quarterback gets the ball, he drops back 5-7 steps, the camera follows him, he throws the football downfield, and once he throws that football downfield, we'll see whether or not a defensive back was near a receiver, if the receiver caught the ball, et cetera, et cetera. When they say franchise quarterback, when they say cliches like the only thing that matters is quarterback, What they've done for you guys is they simplified the game down to a couple things that you can digest and easily diagnose if a team is good or not.
Imagine someone tells you that despite everything you've been taught, the Earth isn't round and that it's actually flat. Pretty silly, right? Everyone knows the Earth is round.
That's why the viewing experience is so good at home. It's harder to see if a person is good in person because you don't have anybody telling you that person's good.
To try and convince you otherwise, those who believe the Earth is flat, flat earthers, tell you about so-called evidence that they feel counters actual scientific evidence that proves the Earth is round.
You don't have an announcer or a color commentator diagnosing and breaking things down for you in real time to make you understand as a person who may not have played the game, who may have not watched the game, who may not really understand what big guys do up front, that don't get the ball, that don't score touchdowns, that don't get interceptions.
In a debate between flat earthers and scientists, the information flat earthers point to, a blend of pseudoscience, conspiracy-prone theories, and wild speculation, obviously doesn't carry the same weight as actual scientific evidence, despite attempts to equate the two. In fact, it's a perfect example of the logical fallacy called false equivalence.
That's why those people are there. And the NFL has done a really good job of making you understand how you score points, how you go about telling if a team is good or not, and if that team is going to be successful, right? So a lot of times, what it basically comes down to...
I told Josh, like, I'm watching the game, and if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't even know he was out there.
No.
It comes down to a basic lack of understanding about what Myles Garrett does for a living. When you hear somebody say this,
these numbers are, I don't know how valuable any of those numbers
I'll tell you
what they're saying is Myles Garrett is in a part of the field in which they don't see him because the ball's not there.
Don't get me wrong. Like I told him, I said that he gets double teamed. They literally schemed away from him the whole time.
Now let's give you a quick understanding really quickly about what defensive ends do. But the one reason I'm breaking this down to you is there's levels to this. And I think people get this misconstrued. My talent and what I do is I tell you stories, right? I try to make the game relatable to the average person. But sometimes when you do that and you do it at a high level, people will start to act like you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to this game of football. When it comes to watching film, when it comes to breaking things down, when it comes to understanding my position, no one understands D-line play more than I do. I've done it for years. I've done it on D1 level. When I'm talking about defensive line play, I go talk to the guys that played in the league. I talk to the coaches that's out there coaching the guys. My college coach, Coach Von Miller. When you talk about defensive ends and you see in the run game, Myles Garrett is not doing what in the run game? He has a gap responsibility. If that gap responsibility is outside, if that gap responsibility is in C gap, he's not going to be making plays in A gap, B gap, or over the center. That means your inside zone plays are done or stopped by your defensive tackle and your linebackers.
I heard last week they torched us running the ball because Myles and Clowney were out. Where both those guys were back, and they torched us even worse.
Yes, they did.
And
the only time you would really see Myles Garrett being disruptive in the run game is if they're running outside zone. If they're running outside guard tackle, we call that GT, right? They'll double team you to the next level. That's the only really time you're going to see Myles Garrett out there, dealing with the run play. And guess what? They got things where look, if it's between me running Myles Garrett's way and the other way, I'm flipping the play and I'm going the other way. And then he's backside. Backside, the only thing you have is if you're the backside and the play is running away from you, only thing you have as a defensive end is you need to check the boot. You need to stay home because if a quarterback takes the ball, pulls it, runs a bootleg, you need to be out there to pull the quarterback up. So play away. Myles Garrett can't be screaming down the line of scrimmage trying to stop a running back that's going way down that way, outside zone, and that play is playing the hit in C gap the opposite way. That's not his play. And if you know anything about football, it's all about gap integrity. One man, one gap. If you get outside of your gap, that's when the ball has an opportunity to cut back. That's when the ball has an opportunity to gash you right where you were supposed to be at. Myles Garrett doesn't control A gap, B gap, and C gap. He has a gap that he needs to neutralize, and he does it. I would not expect a defensive tackle that's in a 3 technique, which is outside shoulder of a guard, or a 0 or a 1 technique over the top of the center to be stopping sweep plays. That play is, the jet sweep is not a defensive tackle play. The jet sweep is more of a defensive ends play. That's what I do expect Myles Garrett to show. But understand gap integrity, understand scheme, understand where the direction of the football is planning on going and what the offense wants to do before you start to say Myles Garrett doesn't understand that, because he understands that. That's just not his play to be made. One thing I always hear, G. Bush, he's not making plays. He's not making plays in there, and I'm just not seeing it. You look at his defensive grade at 92.5. That was first out of all 119 edge rushers. 68.6 in the run game, and 93.5 rush grade, which is number 1 out of all defensive edge rushers, which gives him an overall defensive grade of 92.5. It's been a fallacy that Myles Garrett has just not been very good certain years. He's down production. No, 2017 as a rookie, right? Out of 106 eligible people, he was the 22nd ranked defensive edge rusher at an 80.0 grade. All he's done is get better. 2018, he was 12th out of 104, 86.9 grade. 2019, 11th out of 104, 86.5 grade. Up to 2020, he was sixth highest graded pass rusher, edge rusher out of 110? 86.0 grade. And for the last 2 years, he's just been utterly dominant. Well, let's compare him to T.J. Watt every 6 plays.
This time of year is always super important. This is why we are all here. We are just trying to get better each and every day, trying to learn from each other, trying to learn how we practice, how we do things here in Pittsburgh, also being open-minded to the guys who are veterans and have done things successfully in other places.
I don't disagree with any of that.
No, I don't disagree with any of that.
What has he done compared to Micah Parsons? I like Micah Parsons. I think Micah Parsons is a good pass rusher. I think T.J. Watt is a heck of a pass rusher. But at the end of the day, let's be clear. Those 2 players are not the same player as Myles Garrett. And your feelings don't really care or have anything to do with facts. This is factual. Every time somebody tell you something, you need to start asking these dudes where the visuals is at.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of a double standard. Why isn't Joel there? Why isn't Nick there? I just think for those guys, I mean, they're your kind of prototypical guys that are great, but they're not like face of the franchise type guys. They're just kind of behind the scenes doing their own thing. So you're right. It is kind of a double standard. It is kind of weird. But that was just my thought, was that, okay, Joel, Nick, I mean, those guys are going to do their job. They're going to do it great.
We like to imagine a person's name and all of a sudden they're just better for some reason. Let's go to 2022. This is out of 32 teams. As you can see, Myles Garrett's grade, 92.5. Micah Parsons is a 91.8. Now, trust me, Micah Parsons has been in this league, 1 year, 2 years? I like it. He's trending towards that direction. But we talk about longevity, right? Nick Bosa won the Player of the Year last year, right? Nick Bosa was he was a Defensive Player of the Year. His grade is a 90.6. Max Crosby is a 90.1. Brandon Graham is an 89.8. I couldn't even find T.J. Watt. I'm looking for T.J. Watt's grade. No, he didn't make the list. Was he hurt? Sure he was.
Great. Myles Garrett, there's kind of been some questions about, his impact on the field. It's like he's making an impact, he's getting the sacks, but he's not necessarily making the big plays. So I don't know. I think Myles is definitely under a little more scrutiny than the rest, and it just kind of lends itself to more when he's not in a thing like the OTAs.
I don't care about Joel, Nick, and David not being there. I don't care. Joel, I said yesterday, I think Joel is actually following J.C. Treader's lead still as the union president and one of his best friends.
Right.
Treader basically held a walkout on OTAs when he was here, and I think that's probably a lot to do with why he was forced into early retirement, and Joel's just standing by his guy. Nick's got a contract year coming up next year. Not surprised he's not there. No big deal. Njoku, I don't really care either way. The only one for me, and it was really because more of the role, it was Myles. New defensive coordinator, new scheme, new everything. Just be a leader. That's all. Just be a leader and show up.
Destroying the Browns is not the bar. It's whether or not Myles Garrett is better when you look at the pecking order with the rest of the defensive linemen in the NFL. So you notice I just said bar. One of the things that you don't have to worry about with Mint Mobile is if your bars is up. same network, same cell phone. And let me tell you why you should be out here switching to Mint Mobile. This barbershop video is sponsored by Mint Mobile. Guys, you know I come on here every single day. I talk about rich guys who go around and play a kid sport for millions of dollars. Unfortunately, we don't have that same luxury. So Mint Mobile got you covered. Why pay hundreds of dollars for high-priced cell phones when you can get the same quality as you can with Mint Mobile? Hold on, let me just show you. This is my Mint Mobile phone. This is my other phone. They are both iPhones, both give me the same type of quality, they're both the same feel, and I don't lose any of my calls don't drop. Mint Mobile does the job. You might already know Mint Mobile from the Ryan Reynolds commercials, but let me quickly tell you about how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They are built on the nation's largest 5G network and keep costs low because they can sell direct to you online. This Mint Mobile phone gets the job done. I do a lot of national interviews, I do a lot of local interviews, and the one thing that G. Bush can't have is I can't have my phone dropping. That's not a good look. Mint Mobile has done the job in that area, and I can assure you it'll do the same for you. The great part about it is switching to Mint Mobile is also super easy thanks to their digital eSIM cards. You can sign up and activate immediately right now on your phone from the comfort of your home. You can keep your current device and number and easily switch services. If you're looking out for the whole family, don't worry. Mint Mobile also offers a modern family plan. Unlike Big Wireless, Mint lets you set up your super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Me and my wife both moved to Mint Mobile, and we love our cell phones. We saved a ton of money each month with our cell phone bill. And I can do the same for you. Use my link in the description to get premium wireless service starting at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Garrett Bush. Once again, that is mintmobile.com/Garrett Bush. We understand how important your money is to you and your family. Why spend extra money when you don't have to on the same quality service? Once again, go to my link in the description, mintmobile.com/Garrett Bush to get premium wireless for as low as $15 a month. Make the switch today and start saving money without sacrificing quality. Myles Garrett has been dominant. He's always been dominant. And you take a look at what he's bringing to the table, what he's brought to the table. Sometimes you're not going to be able to sack the quarterback. Sometimes they run away from you. But one of the marks of a truly great defensive end or defender is what does he do even when it ain't even an optimal situation to make a play? Pressure quality ratio. Look at this. He's at the top of the food chain when it comes to snaps per pressure, 8.6. Drive killing pressures, right here, drive killer percentage, 32%. So when he has his pressures, drive killing pressures, those are when you can't even get a hand on the guy, and we got to hurry up and throw the ball out of bounds, and you got to punt, no chance of even converting that. Look at this. But when it comes to the pressure quality, Myles Garrett has done it at a higher level.
I broke down his sacks by the score of the game when the sack occurred. So these are when the Browns have been trailing. So he has 20 in a tied game. You'll see this on both graphics. Of his 81 sacks, 20 have came when the game is tied. When the Browns have been down by 17 or more, so a blowout, he has 5 sacks. This is out of 81, remember. When they're down 8-16, so more than a one-score game, essentially a two-score game, he has 7 sacks. And when the Browns are down by 1 point to 7 points, essentially a one-score game, he has 12. When they are up, Steve, we can take the next one. Once again, you'll see the same 20 there on the tie game score. When they're up by 1-7 in a one-score game, he has 17 career sacks. When they're up by 8-16, so a two-score game, he has 15. And when it's a blowout, when they're up by 3 scores, 17 or more, he has 5. So the majority of his sacks.
He probably haven't been up by 17 or more all that often.
No, only 5 times. No, I'm playing.
Yeah, not too often, but
right.
the majority of the sacks have come when the game's relatively still within hand.
I've given you 3 tiers. I've given it to you in terms of what Pro Football Focus has said. I've given it to you in terms of stats. I've given it to you in terms of what he does. And I'm going to give it to you in terms of when he makes his pressures. There is a lack of people actually looking and studying this stuff. And I also believe that there are times where people's eyes and what they tell them their eyes are seeing is just not accurate. That when people get on the air and say certain things, they haven't been prepared. They haven't watched no film. They haven't looked at the game twice. They don't know what the game. My question to you is: if you're making statements that Myles Garrett ain't just doing, he ain't balling. Let me ask you a question, and I'll stop. And you stop me when I'm wrong. Now, I'm not gonna say that you gotta have to play the position in order to understand what's going on. But what you do have to do is put the time, energy, effort to understanding what goes on. So if you didn't play and you watched the game once, but you don't have the All-22, you don't subscribe to PFF grades, you don't really watch the defensive or offensive lineman, you always say it's all about the quarterback and nothing else matters. You play fantasy football and still don't know nothing about what's going on up front. How is it that I'm supposed to take for you granted for what you saying is actually true? Because really, you don't put no work in. You never played the position. So for you to say that I'm sitting back here watching the Cleveland Browns one game where all they show on regular TV is somebody dropping back, throwing the ball and catching it, and you following along that way, how you going to tell me what that man do up front? Why are you smarter than 17, 18, 25,000 people who subscribe to PFF, right? And if you don't like it, the PFF grades, what I actually suggest you do, go to the NFL, subscribe to the All-22, and then break it down from that level. And if you got a problem with PFF said, I can respect you because at least you put your time in, you put your energy in, you put your money where your mouth is. But don't be sitting back here with these generalities, because here's the thing. I can't rock with you. I can't do it. I respect I respect Jake Burns for breaking it down. Quincy Carrier be breaking it down. Orange or Brown Report be breaking it down. If I'm missing a couple of people out there, I'm sorry. It's a lot of people who do a good job, but there's also some hacks out there. And unfortunately, there be hacks that be getting paid big money. I'm just saying. They'll tell you they'll laugh and joke and say, I didn't watch none of that. That's the part that got to get out the game. That's the part that irks me. And that's the part that gets mad at me, because I done had people try to sit up there and tell me what Myles Garrett done. And I done dedicated my life to the position for 12, 15, 20 years. I've been watching. I was up there running them same techniques, not as good as him. I was up there with them same assignments. I was sitting there talking to the defensive coordinators. My D coordinators in the league, I pick up the phone. What you talking about? That's the problem. I take this very seriously. And just because you think, oh, G Bush funny, he got the panda, don't believe you know more than me about no football. You don't. I'm sorry. We can break this down side for side, sacks for sack. What you talk about? Where you want to go? Because you see me on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I'll be right there with Ty. He played in the league, right there with Tyvis. And if I feel like they doing something wrong, he gonna say, oh, let's go to the pad. And the reason I could go to the pad, I already got the All-22. I done already seen the game 3 times. So you can't tell. Like, I'm going to pay attention to you because you done that. But Tyvis will tell you, G. Bush not going to play with you. We could go back and forth, but when it comes to this football thing, if you ain't put your hand in the dirt, don't you raise your voice and tell me, I just think. Who cares what you think? Think don't matter. I'm telling you what I'm seeing, and I'm showing you what I'm doing right now. So for all y'all that don't like Myles Garrett and y'all think he's garbage, you give me some Myles Garrett plays, put them on YouTube, break it down like I did, and I will salute you, but you still might not be right. So, and guess what? A lot of people who got regular jobs that really do that for a living, that be in the game for a living, they're not even going to do that because they ain't got time to. Just telling you a little secret. And if you know, you know. What we going to do, shout out to everybody else. Make sure if you like this content, if you want the real, if you understand what we talking about, you could donate at the barbershop. You can use the QR code, paypal.me/GBush91 or $GBush91. You could do that on PayPal, or you could do it on Cash App. You could also become a member. Become a member on Patreon. We just dropped that. We got an episode up there where I tell some industry inside stuff. I got another one dropping very soon for only members. Don't forget, if you want to be part of the weekly coming up, I believe our first one is July 21st. If you want to be part of the Patreon members Q&A sessions during the season, sign up for Patreon. Sign up. We're going to have Q&A. You guys can ask me questions. Q&A on Twitter Spaces. We're doing this only exclusive for the people that sign up on Patreon, man. We're going to take that time to answer this Q&A. We're going to be doing, every week we're going to be doing those for the Browns, making sure we can break down these games, those Q&A sessions. The first one is coming up on Friday. Also, there's a lot of other great things you can get on Patreon. You got gear, free merchandise. We got some stuff coming out with that exclusive content. So you guys keep it locked. If you want to support, make sure you do that over on Patreon. And guess what? If you're just watching the video, you ain't got it. We get it. We understand it. The greatest thing that you could do, word of mouth. Take it, repost it, repost some of this stuff. Put it up. Make sure I get some likes on there. That's the best way. Likes is free. Likes is free. Just, man, go ahead and throw that up there. Likes is free. We appreciate everything that you guys is doing out here. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Coming up on our next episode, I don't want you to miss this. I'm going to start my Jim Schwartz series. The Jim Schwartz series is going to come out. It's going to be right from the horse's mouth. There's going to be a lot of stuff Jim Schwartz has said that I got an opportunity to get some seminar tape with Jim Schwartz and how he says he's going to run some of his other defenses and how he's ran other defenses that give you a little insight as how he will run defenses with the Cleveland Browns. You won't want to miss this. This is going to be about a 4 or 5 part series on the Browns defense, what Jim Schwartz wants to do, how that affects other guys. So you don't want to miss that as well. And don't forget, coming up, we do have some members-only videos dropping this week as well. With that being said, it's your boy G Bush. Follow me at GBush91 on Twitter. Make sure you check out the barbershop merchandise on Bushline Beauty and continue to support us on Patreon. We'll catch you next time.